So, is it that time in your life yet? Do you feel like your family is complete and you and your spouse want to not worry about changing that? Well, the decision can be difficult, but the recovery doesn't have to be. After your vasectomy, you gotta get testes. Doctors usually recommend a jockstrap and ice for your boys to help with comfort. Well, testes is the best of both worlds. This is for the man who is out on the go and needs to get things done. You get the ice packs from the freezer, strap up, and saddle up. The packs give you at least 20 minutes of comfort, even if you're just sitting around watching the game. And most important, guys, no wet spots. Put on the jockstrap under your briefs and go about your day. They come in 3 sizes, medium, large, and extra large to get your right fit. Now head on over to testes.com. That's TEST-EEZE.com. TEST-EEZE.com. Your wife is going to thank you for the snip, and your testes are going to be thanking me. Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host Sean McGahee, and this is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, Patreon, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever, guys. While you're there, go and rate, review, subscribe, then head on over to the Facebook group or the Twitter account, or even dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com and join in the discussion, guys. And don't forget, you can find me personally, Slim Dayspring12, on Twitter and Instagram. Well, hello everyone, and a happy holidays. Hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you're celebrating. Hope it was a good one. Not too bad here on the old McGahee homestead. Of course, I got together with family and had some good stuff. I will say, for those of you who follow me actually on Twitter, Instagram, or whatever, I had next to me my little Christmas toy from my daughter. She got me a little Babu Frick that talks, Babu Frick from The Rise of Skywalker. So I just kind of put him beside the computer here, and every time I walk by, I just push his little foot, and he says, or something along those lines, the Babu Frick catchphrases. But he's a little cutie, I prefer Babu Frick over Baby Yoda, but I'm not going to get into that very right now. What I am going to do is talk a little about Wonder Woman 1984. That's right, guys. The Warner Brothers DC film was released on Christmas Day in theaters and on HBO Max. Now, this is said to be the first of several films that Warner Brothers wants to put simultaneously on their streaming service, HBO Max, but also released in theaters as well. I will say this, is I did not watch the film on HBO Max on Christmas Day or the first time I watched it. I actually, Saturday, rented out a theater, my local Cinemark, which is my main theater I go to. It has been open, and I've seen several films throughout the last couple of months. That's where I go. It's open, and they're doing the whole renting out of theaters, so that's what I did. Pay a little bit of money. I rented out a theater. I had up to 20 friends come. They helped chip in a little bit to help pay for the theater costs, and we all sat down and watched Wonder Woman 1984 in theaters. So I did not watch it on HBO Max because, to me, it's the type of film that, especially when you watch it for the first time, if you want to get the most out of it, I think you have to be in the theater surrounded by it in order to fully appreciate it, because that's what a lot of these films should be seen in for the first time. I will say, though, my wife made me sit at the very top row instead of the middle row where I like to sit. I have that dead center spot in the theater. I usually like to sit. And even though, I organized the whole get together and all that, I still didn't get a chance to sit in my very favorite seat in the theater because the one next to it, my wife's footrest was broken and wouldn't come out. And she held my popcorn and soda hostage. So I had to go where she was, which is at the top row, which not too happy about that. Anyway, so this is the next film in the DC shared movie universe, kind of like, the DCEU is what it's called, their own personal MCU. Gal Gadot's back as Wonder Woman, Patty Jenkins back directing, you got Chris Pine back, and then they were joined by Pedro Pascal as Maxwell Lord, and then you had Kristen Wiig as Cheetah, or Barbara Minerva, as she's really called in the film. Now, if you do follow me personally online, you can go and see I ranked this in the DCEU films, and it's towards the bottom. You know, just to give my general sense of the film, the first Wonder Woman film I enjoyed. I didn't, absolutely loved, but I loved what Patty Jenkins did with it. I loved it was set in World War One, and it was about kind of humanity, accepting humanity for what it is, and Chris Pine's character, Steve Trevor, showing Diana that there are good and bad inside of everyone, and it's not some outside power such as Ares controlling people, that sometimes people are bad, but sometimes they're good, and it's, the beauty of all of that that makes them human. Just the way it was all portrayed in the first film, I really enjoyed it. And I felt like this film lacked all of that, actually. I mean, I went back the next day on HBO Max and I watched a couple of scenes. The first scene I watched, which, by the way, guys, of course, anyone who knows, hasn't read the headline, it's a spoilers review. So if you haven't seen the film, don't want to be spoiled, pause, go watch it, come back and listen to me afterwards. I'm trying to be as brief as I possibly can to, but we all know how I like to ramble. Anyway, I went back to that first scene, the flashback scene with young Diana doing the mascara, the Amazonian contest, and she almost won. And Robin Wright's character, Penelope, what's her name? Antelope, that's her name. Antipe. Wait, I can't, I'm looking at it on IMDb, but I don't know it. Guys, I'm not a big Wonder Woman fan. I don't read the Wonder Woman comic books. Every week I'll go through and I read Batman and Superman and even Aquaman. Not a big Wonder Woman fan. I've read a lot of hers. My favorite run was actually during the New 52, where it was very heavily steeped in Greek mythology. I'm a fan of Greek mythology, so I was really into all that. But that was one of the few New 52 comics that I actually liked when they first did that. But I really have not read a lot of Wonder Woman, so you know what? I'm going to get some stuff wrong, and I'm not really going to talk too much about the comic books and how it relates to the film, but just getting that out there. Anyway, Robin Wright's character is telling young Diana that she cheated, that, the truth is she didn't deserve to win because, she wasn't good enough to win, but that's okay because one day she will be. And it goes into, they're trying to preach the theme of truth. And, then I jump to the end scene when Diana gives her speech to Maxwell Lord, and how he's made all these wishes and tried to change all the world, and she's saying that no, the truth is the world is how it is, and it's beautiful just the way it is, and you shouldn't wish to change it. And I don't know, that speech got me a little off to begin with anyway, but I'm just trying to think about the themes of how that compares to the themes of the first film about humanity being good and bad inside all of us, and that's just the beauty of us, versus this one where it's about the world is what it is, and you have to learn to find the beauty or the truth in it, I guess, is kind of what the message was. I don't know honestly if that's what it was, but that's kind of what I picked up on. But Wonder Woman 1984, honestly, yeah, I'm not a big fan of the film. Like, I watched it, it's not a complete train wreck, I'll give you that, but I don't see myself ever feeling the urge to watch this film ever again, really. I mean, the first Wonder Woman film, I watch it from time to time. I haven't had an urge to watch it after I watched this one, just because I wanted to watch a better Wonder Woman film. This one just kind of, I felt like nothing happened in this film that I cared about, I guess. Nobody, no character or no event either surprised me or I felt like had real stakes, because I could tell what was going to happen, and also I didn't care enough about the characters and what was happening to them, and Wonder Woman included in that. The film failed to get me emotionally invested versus the first film. The chemistry and the back and forth between Diana and Steve, definitely did get me there. And when Steve dies in the first film, I felt it. And this one, I watched that Steve scene again where he tells Diana that he has to let him go. She has to let him go in order to get her strength back and save the world. It was very reminiscent of, that first scene, that scene in the first Wonder Woman movie where, that's what it was. He's like, hey, I gotta go get that plane to save the day, but you have the power to save the world, and that it was the same thing. It's like, you have to let me go in order to go save the world. So it's, again, similar to what the first film was. And I guess you could say it's either repetitive and nothing new, or it's a constant theme throughout it where Steve, again, is saying, you have to, do what you're meant to do what you can. The cheese factor in this film was something for me as well, especially that mall scene. Super cheesy, like not in just the way it was, but the way that the villains or the robbers acted seemed really cheesy. And this is supposed to be set in the 80s, and there's a lot of questions I think you need to bring up. In the first film, you're seeing her interact with World War One and having to deal with global power, global evil, and how her naiveness clashes against that. Whereas this one, we're in the 80s and we're meant to believe that she has been in the world, living in the world this whole time. We got World War II, Vietnam, civil rights, Cold War, all that stuff. We got no answers about what she had been doing while all these other global catastrophes had been happening. Did she just sit there and sulk more for Steve, or did she get involved and try to do something? It's questions that we did not get answered. Now, we saw, of course, she stayed close with the group of characters that she met in the first film. We saw pictures where she was together at events with them, and Steve's secretary, I forget what her name was, but you saw a picture of her and Diana when she was older, and of course Diana's still looking young, and you saw that she kept close with that unit. But again, for being set in the 80s, there was just so many questions as far as the problems that had come in between World War One and 1984. How did she deal with them? I think that would have been a much better intro to the film than rather, the flashback of her as a little girl doing, Olympic Games just for the sake of, stunts and action in the film. I think it would have been a much better, collage to show just, what she had been up to in that time to fill in the gaps rather than just some gimmicky little, Amazonian games, in my opinion. The film just lacked heart to me. It's something that I think the first film had a lot of. This one just seemed, of course, cheesy. It's a film can have cheese in it. That's not a problem. And I'm not talking about, American or Swiss. I'm talking, cheesiness to it. Superman the movie with Christopher Reeves, I absolutely love that film. And that has a lot of cheese to it. I'll definitely say that. But it still, I think, took a lot of the material more serious. But also, it's that fine line. Making films, making any production like this is an art form. It's like baking or cooking. You have all these ingredients you have to put in to make this thing. And if you have too little or too much of something, it doesn't quite come out right. And I think in this instance, you just had too much of a cheese factor in the film, especially at the beginning. And I think one thing the film lacked was not enough 80s. It was 1984. It was, the trailer had these great 80s songs, flashbacks that we didn't even hear at all. There was plenty, I think, about 80s fashion, of course, the thing where Diana is dressing up Steve, that whole scene. You give a nod to your 80s fashion, but what about, the state of the world? as far as the problems that there were in the 80s, or even, the music. I mean, my God. Yeah, I mean, I may be biased because I was born in the 80s and, I was, loved 80s music, but where was the 80s music? Yeah, it was, God, where was it? It just baffles me that more was not put in there. Okay, so I'm going to go a little more depth here. Usually when I do kind of these movie reviews, I feel like I miss stuff. But usually what I can do is I bring up IMDb and I go through kind of character for character, describing how I feel about that person or memorable scenes in the film, to where I don't feel like I miss as much in that case. So that's what I do. I got IMDb pulled up. I'm going to pull, through a few things here and just kind of go through it. But first, I want to talk about Patty Jenkins' directing. Now, like I said, Patty Jenkins is a fine director. I liked what she did the first Wonder Woman film. Of course, Monster with Charlize Theron is a great film, a scary film that I've only seen once, but nonetheless, it was a terrific film. So with her as a filmmaker, I enjoy her the way she does. I have full faith that she can do a good job, and I think a lot of people do, especially after she did such a good job on the first Wonder Woman film. And then, of course, she's set to direct the next Star Wars film, Rogue Squadron, which a lot of people are excited about, and I was too. And then we get to Wonder Woman 2, and it just doesn't feel, again, like I said, that first Wonder Woman I felt like had so much heart to it, and this film was missing its heart. Let me look at something real quick. I'm going to look up, and I want to see what are some of the differences between the two films. Obviously, the director was the same. Now, writing credits, I hate to be the person who says this because I'm a fan of Jeff Johns as a comic book writer, one of my favorite comic book writers. He helped write this script with Patty Jenkins. And I go back to the first Wonder Woman film, and I don't see either of their names anywhere on here. So to take that story, which I think had a lot to do with it, it started, the first Wonder Woman film, I think, started off with some good bones, good story, good script, and this one I felt like lacked it, and that's where you got to start, is with a good story. And unfortunately, as much as I love Patty Jenkins and I love Jeff Johns, this story wasn't here. The bones weren't here to build something that was going to be great. Not to say that it was going to be horrible, but I think it got off on the wrong foot as far as the story-wise. Now, how does this make me feel about the film going forward, or how I feel about the fact that they've already announced a Wonder Woman 3 is coming? I'm a lot less confident about a Wonder Woman 3 today than I was a week ago, which considering the praise of the Wonder Woman film and the Wonder Woman character, you knew a third one was possibly coming. But Warner Brothers has already announced it. We don't know if it's going to be the same thing, where it's going to be, of course, theaters and HBO Max at the same time. That's not what's in question. I just know I have less faith in Wonder Woman 3 now than I did a couple days ago. I will put an asterisk by it, though, because I know, from news that has been told about that first Wonder Woman film, is that the studio, Warner Brothers, of course, after the failure of Batman v Superman and Man of Steel, it failed to generate the kind of hype that the Marvel studio films did. The Warner Brothers started messing with some of their upcoming films, such as Suicide Squad, such as Justice League, and such as Wonder Woman, where there's a rumor that the studio wanted to get rid of the No Man Land scene in Wonder Woman, which is by far a top 3 scene in the entire DC extended film universe. So it just goes, and Patty Jenkins fought him on it and kept it in. And I'm wondering, is that what happened? Did Patty Jenkins go more in line with the studio on this one rather than fighting them on things in the first one? Because this film does feel very much like a paint by the numbers. Let's play it safe. Let's play it goofy. This is a superhero film, so let's be silly. Not let's tell a really good humanizing story. They wanted to, let's make a good superhero film instead of let's make a good film. And it doesn't, again, I feel like it has no heart. It's like they shot for the target and missed. Okay, so moving on with the actors and actresses, it's kind of like there's really four to talk about, right? There's Pedro Pascal, Kristen Wiig, Chris Pine, and Gal Gadot. And really, with Chris Pine, I mean, he, out of the four, he was, the least amount of screen time. He was there to try to compliment Diana and be that thing that Diana wished for, that she eventually has to give up in order to do what she was meant to save the world. The thing that she has to do. So really, Chris Pine does what Chris Pine does. I think he's a great actor, and I really don't have too much to say about his character except for the whole thing where they brought him back, but instead of just him rematerializing, he takes over some other guy's body. And because Gal Gadot is the one that wished for him, everyone else sees him as who he is, where Gal Gadot Diana sees Steve Trevor, and that's how they got away with that. But that seemed like kind of the odd thing for me, of course, in regards to the way Steve and Diana were working in this film is we, the audience, knew, and they as characters knew, they had taken over some guy's life. This guy who, had friends, family, a job, or whatever, they didn't care, at least for a little while, who this person was. All, Diana cared about was that she had Steve back, the guy she had been, sad about for 70 years. And I guess to me, that seemed a little wrong and a little against who the characters are, both Steve and Diana. And it wasn't until the entire world's threatened that, Steve's like, maybe I should go. I'm like, really? You take over, another guy's life and, not once question about what it's doing to him? And it just seemed wrong. But in regards to the main character, Wonder Woman, Diana, Gal Gadot, never been a big fan of hers. I think it was obvious they brought Chris Pine back because, he was the person that held her up in that first film. He was the one doing the heavy lifting because she wasn't that strong of an actress in that first film. I still don't think she's that strong of an actress. I don't think she's gotten a little better, but still not great. Still not someone I would be like, oh, Gal Gadot, the new Gal Gadot film. Yeah, I gotta go see that. No, not even. If anything, it's the exact opposite. And I didn't see anything in this film that made me, more impressed by her as an actress, so to speak. She had a couple scenes where she cried and all that, but it was not great acting in my eyes. But if it worked for you, awesome. That's cool. The flying scene. I know Wonder Woman has the ability to fly in the comic books. I know people have played with that a little bit. Sometimes she does, sometimes she doesn't. But given the fact that this is supposed to take place in the same continuity with the rest of the DCEU films, and you have Man of Steel after this, Batman v Superman, Justice League after this, what happened to Diana's ability to fly? I mean, did she forget it in the 20 to 30 years when we get to Justice League or Batman v Superman? I mean, it's, again, if you're going to say it's part of a shared universe, the continuity's a little off, which I guess Warner Brothers wants to make you forget that's perhaps the first Justice League film and maybe even Batman v Superman existed to some degree, but that scene was very much, they were, again, reaching for something kind of like in the first Man of Steel film, or Man of Steel, when he learns to fly, which I have issues with Man of Steel, granted, but I love that scene. Whatever I can say about Man of Steel, I think that scene where Clark Kal-El first puts on the suit and he's trying to learn to fly is a great scene. And it was almost like they were very much trying to imitate that in this scene. And again, I didn't feel it. I mean, I get it. I could see why some people might, but I did not feel it because, again, that was an earned moment in the film. You had to spend the rest of the film building to that moment where she ascends to the next level, so to speak, I guess you would say, in her powers. But in order to really be excited about it, you had to be on that emotional journey with her throughout the entire film. But the problem was, we weren't on that journey with her. We were on a journey with Maxwell Lord and Barbara. The journey in this was much like, the Schumacher films. The journey was with the villains. It wasn't with the hero. And again, one of the failures of this film, like I think some other DC films, is, you put the emphasis on the villain and, you're supposed to be cheering for the hero, but if you don't go on that journey with your hero, you don't care about those emotional moments. You don't care what happens to them. And so I didn't felt nothing when she learned to fly. I mean, honestly, I was like, okay, she can fly now. Great, cool. I wasn't like, wow, that's cool. I was like, okay, she can fly, whatever. And her speech at the end, again, it felt hollow to me, is what it was. It all felt hollow and plastic and just devoid of, again, like I said, heart. Just didn't work for me. So the one thing, though, in the film that I will say worked for most of the film was Kristen Wiig as Barbara, aka Cheetah. We've seen this trope before, of course, little dorky character who gains some kind of power and becomes this villain, right? We've seen it before. It's a very much a superhero trope. And some people weren't sure about, Kristen Wiig when she was cast in this part. I know she'd done, she's mainly known for her comedy roles, but I know she did some dramatic roles that were actually quite good. So when she was cast, I thought, great, I think she has more range as an actress than I think people give her credit for. So I thought she was going to do a good job, and she did. I think she probably had the best performance in my eyes of the entire film about giving, again, the emotional journey where she starts to gain those powers. And then you get to that scene where Diana and Steve realize they might need to take out Maxwell Lord in order to stop all the wishes, but Barbara doesn't want her wish to stop. She likes being that powerful. She likes being noticed, and she begins to stop Diana from completing her mission because she knows that will be the end of what she wants. So that was just, the one, emotional arc that worked for me. Now, at the end, she's on the plane with Maxwell Lord, and, she says she wants to be an apex predator, which of course turns her into a cheetah. But a lot of people are kind of scratching their heads because she already made her wish, right? She made her wish when the stone was still the stone, before Maxwell Lord became the stone. So how did she get another wish? My only reasoning, I think, behind it is that, remember, somebody would wish for something with Maxwell or with the stone, and then he would then tell them what he would get out of it, I guess, So she made a wish to be like Diana, to be powerful, but the stone or Maxwell didn't ask for anything else. And in this case, he gave her that persona, I guess, is the best I can think, or the best I can reason as to why in the last, 15, 20 minutes of the film, she turned into an actual cheetah, aside from the fact that the character is like that in the comic books. It was like somebody was, making the story and, making this character, and we're coming towards the end of the story and be like, oh, wait, this character is supposed to look like a cheetah. Oh, what do we do? Oh, we'll just, put some line in there about her being an apex predator, and then we can show her as a cheetah. And just seemed like it was kind of very forced into the film, instead of, I think, the right way to do it, or not the right way to, I get it, she's got to be a cheetah, it's what their character is, I get that part, but in sense of this, just the movie, just the film, just have her have a battle with Diana at the end, not as a cheetah, just as another powerful being, just, to face off against her. as to who she is. I think that would have made more sense rather than, turning her into a cheetah. And some people are complaining because, at the end of the film too, you see her turn back into human. But people are saying that, she didn't renounce her wish. Well, we didn't see her renounce her wish. I think what should be implied that, when you turn into a cat like that, and you probably don't want to stay that way. So I'm sure she renounced her wish. We just didn't see it or hear it. And of course, what cheesy superhero film would be without a second villain? Batman Forever had Riddler and Two-Face. Batman and Robin had Poison Ivy and Freeze. Spider-Man 3 had Sandman and Venom. And, Amazing Spider-Man 2 had, God, how many villains? I don't even remember. How many were there? I can't even say. Anyway, it's almost too much to stuff a cheesy film with two villains, at least two villains. And of course, they did that on this one, which it happens. I'm not saying it can be a bad thing, but I think there are a lot of examples of it not turning out right. Now, Pedro Pascal's Maximo Lord, this kind of, let's call him a schmuck. He seemed like a schmuck to me. He was trying to fool people into investing in oil. Didn't turn out right, so he wished to get what he wanted so he could look good, be powerful, be somebody, not only to himself, but to his son as well. And, it all turned awry because he kept seeking more and more power and giving this wish fulfillment. But if everybody has their wishes, be careful what you wish for. If everyone has what they want, then, the world's going to turn in chaos, which is true. I think if everybody, gets what they want, then, you're going to find out that everyone wants something different and things are going to go quite awry as they did in this film. Now, I like Pedro Pascal as an actor. Loved him in Game of Thrones. I think he's doing a fine job in Mandalorian. And I think he did what he was supposed to do in this film. And again, I'm talking about that cheese factor again. He did what he was supposed to. He did what he was told. And it just came off over the top in my eyes. He didn't seem menacing to me. I wasn't afraid of him as a villain. I was more afraid of Barbara rather than him. Even though he had all this power, he seemed like a guy that was just out of, control and had no idea what he was doing or what was he doing next, if anything. He still seemed like a sad, pathetic man the entire film in my eyes. And I'm sorry, as a villain, I should be terrified of him, but I wasn't. So they lost me on that as well. So, okay, I want to try to wrap this up, guys, because I think I've gone on long enough. Wonder Woman 1984. Again, if you have enjoyed this film, awesome. I'm trying to think of any really good parts, any good scenes that I could be like, yeah, that was cool, they did that. And I try to hold on to that flying scene, but it didn't work for me as well as, as Man of Steel or some other scenes like that they really earned it. I don't know, guys. The film didn't work for me. It just didn't. Again, not saying it was total crap, but I'm never going to watch it again. No plan ever to watch this film ever again. So, but of course, we do have the third Wonder Woman film coming out, and we'll see how that goes. And Walter Hamada, president of DC Films, has announced that starting in 2022, they're going to be cranking out some films. They're looking for 2 films a year on HBO Max and 4 in theaters. So we know we have the Batman, Suicide Squad's coming up. You also have, Shazam sequel, Aquaman sequel, The Flash, allegedly, and Black Adam, which has been put on hold again. So there are things coming down the pipeline. Where they'll end up, obviously, I think Batman and Aquaman 2 and probably Shazam, definitely we're gonna see those on the big screen. I don't think we'll see those at HBO Max. But before I wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about that, where, again, DCEU, they've been so-and-so. And they're not hitting like the MCU has hit, but they don't have to be. Batman v Superman is really just, my prime example of a theatrical film that tried so hard to, when it came out, be something that was cool rather than what it was. Because I love the ultimate cut of Batman v Superman, and I hate the theatrical cut. And you saw that instead of trying to be a entire complete film, they cut it up and just tried to put a bunch of cool scenes together for the theatrical cut that didn't make sense. And again, with this, it was like they set out to make a good superhero film, but they didn't set out to make a good film in general. And I think that's the difference between this one and the previous Wonder Woman film. Maybe. I don't know. I'm probably way off, but that's the way I feel about it, guys. How do you feel about it? Let me know. Fireback, of course, the Facebook group, Twitter account, DayspringDiscussions@gmail.com. I want to know, what did you like about Wonder Woman? What did you not like about it? Are you looking forward to the next Wonder Woman film? All that stuff. That's where it's there to be discussed online. That's why I do this, guys. So fire back and let me know your thoughts on Wonder Woman 1984. That's it for me. I am going to go probably relax the rest of the day. Enjoy some family time, dinner, all that jazz. But if you need anything, you know where to find me, guys. Okay? That is it for me today. Until next time, guys, may the force be with us all.